There's a storm across the valley. The clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum and to our new series, Introduction to Easton's Clergy. I'm Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, your host, and today is January 31st, 2023. And it is with a great deal of pleasure to welcome Reverend Ryan Chambers-Johnson and his wife, Reverend Devyn Chambers-Johnson. And Devyn is the Chambers and Ryan is the Johnson.
That's right.
So they're co-pastors of the Covenant Congregational Church on Center Street in Easton, a church that has Swedish roots and one that shared many activities and services with my church, the Swedish Evangelical Lebanon Lutheran Church, at the corner of Jenny Lind Street and William Street, which is now on Lincoln Street and has been renamed Holy Trinity Lutheran. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about some of the older folks who are no longer with us and are in their heavenly home, we hope. And they were neighbors of mine on Seaver Street. And I knew them growing up. And I was president of the Luther League, and Bert Lambert, called Bert Anderson, was president of the Youth League at the Covenant Congregational Church. Yeah. And we did lots of activities together. And so I know so many of your parishioners. Mm-hmm. So welcome. Tell me a little bit, how long have you been here?
2 years. February 1st we started. So 2 years. And it's been an adventure. We moved in the middle of COVID. So we did all of our interviewing online and moved here sight unseen. So we drove up to the parsonage and the church, and it's been an adventure. Lovely.
Would you call it an adventure, Ryan?
It was very stressful, but we made it, and we had to quarantine in our home for, was it a week?
2 weeks,
2 weeks.
I think, yeah.
That was what the regulations were at the time, and but in the end, it's been such a great move for our family and for us, and to be a part of that church.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And so I understand that you were co-pastors in Virginia. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Devyn and I met in seminary, students there. So one of the options for us when we left seminary was to look at this co-pastor model, which is where we divide 1 or 1.5 positions in between the two of us and communicate that to the church leadership. And so we did that for 10 years down in Virginia. It was a great time. Springfield was the suburb. So if you know, the first ring suburb is Arlington. And then one more out is Springfield. So it's in the middle of all the traffic and the people, but we loved our time down there. So we split the position there, and now we're doing the same thing up here.
Yeah.
So you were there for 10 years.
Yes. Yeah. We welcomed home our 2 kids down there. They're age now 10 and 6.
Yes.
And so that was a great joy for us, and we did that for 10 years. Yeah, it was a great community.
So, and here you are here in Easton. And what brought you to Easton? What made you choose Easton?
Oh, well, we were just kind of feeling like our time at the previous place was coming to an end, and in all honesty, we wanted to get near somebody's family. I'm from Seattle originally, and my husband's from Illinois, and so we were looking, and then sort of like our supervisor, our bishop, was like, well, why don't I put your name into a couple of these churches in New England? And we're like, well, okay, if you want to, and we'll see what happens. And sure enough, once we started talking with the church, it became really evident this is where we were supposed to be, and so we said yes.
Yeah, it was just felt like a good fit with the people that were interviewing us, and we felt prayerfully that the Spirit was calling us here. So it was a good move for us. Yeah.
And you're not disappointed?
No.
No, it's a great town. We're really grateful to be here. We came during COVID. We had never visited the town. We'd been to Boston before, but not way out, not out here. And they had kind of said to us, it's a suburb of Boston. And we thought, okay, we understand what a suburb is because we lived in a suburb in DC, which was basically strip malls and developments. And this was a much more New England town than suburb, and we were pleasantly surprised with that. Yeah,
it was a
real
better
joy.
move for our family, for sure.
A real joy.
And so your children are in the school system?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we have a first grader and a fourth grader, and we have nothing but wonderful things to say about the schools and their teachers, especially coming in the middle of COVID. Particularly my older one's teacher, she was in second grade, just went above and beyond and sort of talked to the class like a celebrity was joining their class. Like they were just like so excited. And so she was just really welcomed really warmly, and that's been the case ever since.
Yeah.
She was at Parkview to begin, and then our youngest went to Tiny Tots, which is at our church. That's what we also are known as, the Tiny Tots Church. So she did that when we first moved here. Now she's in Blanche Ames in a brand new school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty magnificent, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, it's better than any college building I've ever attended. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
And so you met at North Park Seminary, and that's in Chicago, Illinois, right smack in the middle of Andersonville, which is a Swedish enclave, and many immigrants located there. So tell me, what do you feel are your challenges that you face in the ministry?
Well, we were thrown a challenge. Everyone was thrown a challenge about 2-3 years ago with COVID and the shutdown, and we had the same conversations everyone else had about, do you go back to work? What does that look like? Do you mask? How far apart do you sit? And then those have changed and modified over the course of time. So there were the legitimate difficulties, like at first, like, do we open up? How often do we open for worship? And some of those things were made already before we moved here because we were kind of moved in the middle. But we had sections that people could sit at 6 feet apart from each other, if you remember those days.
Yeah.
But now it's more kind of more approaching things like, okay, people are thinking of coming back to church, or they already have. How often do we offer the things we used to offer for classes and studies, and how do we get people engaged again with reaching out to the community? Because all those things ground to a halt or shifted dramatically. So what are we doing now to kind of not only just go back, but think of new ways to engage with the poor and with our children, and so that kind of makes for a unique challenge in a unique season.
So if somebody wanted to know what you offered at the church, what would you tell them?
I'd say we're a real multi-generational community, and so you come on a Sunday and there's pretty much every
6 months to 106.
Yes, well, not quite 106,
well, right.
but close, close. But yeah, really try to be that community for people, and we're a place where everybody belongs and has a place. And so for our kids, we offer programming on Sunday mornings for them, special events. We have close ties with the Tiny Tots community there, and connecting with them. And then we provide things for adults, Sunday school classes, a monthly gathering of retirees we call Friendship Club, and do kind of a Bible study in that as well. And then we have our outreach opportunities, so you can speak to that.
Yeah, so we partner with a number of organizations in here in Easton and in the area, including School on Wheels. We're very involved with that. They pack backpacks and offer tutoring to homeless shelters primarily. And then we're also very involved with Father Bill's and Mainspring House at Brockton, offering food and care to that community of the homeless and the near homeless. So we're involved in a lot of different ways and have different sorts of outreach activities available for those activities. So, yeah.
We have a phenomenal music ministry as well. So we have a full choir every Sunday, as well as a bluegrass band some weeks and a contemporary band some weeks, and just some really professional quality musicians that participate regularly in the music and worship.
Yeah, we feel like that's a very high strong point of the church, is the music program. We have children's choir that's singing this Sunday.
Yeah, come
so
this
come
Sunday.
on by. Lots going on.
Yeah. So do you have a contemporary service then once a month? Or you just have the contemporary music?
We have about once a month we have.
Yeah, we intermix different styles of music. That's kind of one of our highlights, is that we're not just one flavor. We kind of involve them all together. So we do lean more towards choral music and formal music like that, but we do have weeks where a contemporary band plays, but that's during the regular worship service at Sunday mornings.
It's all integrated. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And the end of this month we have a gospel weekend. So the last Sunday of this month, so we're going to have kind of a gospel choir of our members. So they're going to do some extra practices, and we have a guest conductor coming in to do that. So we'll have.
Yeah, we'll invite everyone to that. That's the last Sunday of February at 10:30. It's going to be mostly gospel music, and we have an expert in gospel music. What do you know her name off the top of your head?
Linda Brown St. Martin.
Yeah, that sounds right to
I
me.
think that's it.
Yeah.
She's on staff at the Unity Church, but she's coming over to help us out to do this style of music. So we're excited about that.
And we're creating a gospel choir just for that week, so you can go on our website and find out more about that. But so you can just join just for that weekend if you'd like to.
And what is your website?
www.ecovchurch.org.
Yeah,
So
eCov Church.
ecovchurch.org.
So Easton Covenant Congregational Church.
Right, kind of, yes.
Yeah.
It's we squished it down.
Yeah.
ecovchurch.org.
Oh, ECOV.
Yeah.
So Easton Cov
Church.
Yeah.
Church.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Very good. So, and so every week it sounds that there are different things to attract different people.
Yeah.
And you have, my church also reaches out to Father Bills.
Yeah.
And we prepare supper and once a month. And then every week we do luncheon, 75 lunches for kids.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And and then we support the Rose Conservatory.
Oh, how
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Often. I don't know if you,
I've been following them since the
Have you?
beginning too. Yeah. It's
And
brand
they
new.
have brought their musical talents to our church when we had the 130th birthday party, for example.
Yeah.
And it was, so it's so important in this day and age to do outreach. And I'm so glad that you're doing it. And Pastor Polk is a real advocate for that. Because how else do we express our faith if we're not out there helping people?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how has the spiritual journey strengthened your faith? And I imagine some of the people that you meet along the journey have made impressions on you. Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, my grandmother was probably my greatest sort of spiritual mentor, and she unfortunately passed away a little over a year ago. But she was my biggest advocate when I was pursuing ministry, even though she grew up in a tradition that would not have supported a woman in this kind of leadership role. But I think in a different time and place, she would have been called to be a pastor, and so I think she kind of really encouraged me along the way in that. But also just as someone who always tried to figure out what the scriptures were saying and then how she could live that out. And so even in her last days of being in a lot of pain, she would still have someone drive her to the dollar store so she could pack bags for the homeless. You know, they have the toiletry bags and things, and that was what she wanted to do, make sure was done for her last Christmas, that she was still participating in that.
My
And
goodness.
So
Wow.
that sort of feet to faith kind of
Yeah.
dynamic is really, has been really influential to me. Like, you can say all the right things, but if you're not
Doing
living
the
that
right
out,
things, right.
and people don't see, the work of Christ in you, then,
Right. We're the
doesn't
hands
say a
and
lot.
feet.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that you have supported the ministry in Boston at the
Seafarers.
Seafarer
Yeah.
Ministry, and Pastor Cushing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And our church does too.
Oh, good.
But with COVID, we stopped going, so now we have to, pardon the pun, resurrect the program.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So-
another one of our outreaches. is
Yeah,
to
it's a great ministry.
to the Seamen's Mission.
Yeah, it's called, and what they do is they support individuals that work cruise ships and also container ships that come off at the port in Boston by providing that they only have 24 hours, 12 hours, some of them on shore. So there's a little store there, and then there's this mail room, which is really fascinating to be in because they have all their Amazon packages shipped to this mail room, and then they come off and they want all their packages delivered to them. So I went up there and worked that once this past year, and you got to match the name to the package, and there's this big. It's very very helpful and good community up there.
Have you ever worked the sending the money back home?
I didn't know. I don't touch that.
Me either.
Yeah.
The Western Union,
in
they have a Western
Union, right,
Union location
yeah.
there. Yeah, the point is just to care for them. They have such short amount of time, and how can they get as many of their needs met, in one place and utilize their time, and then also be a spiritual support to them. A lot of them are, in real struggling situations, away from home, away from family, and need someone to support them in that time. Yeah.
I dared only to work in the store. That was about my speed.
Yeah. Right.
But I really admired people that could send telegrams and money and So
great.
those were one of our members, Dave DeVore. He always did that. But of course, he's an engineer, and I think it's for mathematically inclined people.
Yeah.
Probably.
People with left brains, not people with right brains. Yeah. So, what is your vision for the future?
Well, our church celebrates 140 years anniversary this year.
You're older than we are.
Yeah.
I guess so.
I guess
Yes. Oh, by
Who knew?
Yes, by
Yeah.
11 years.
1883.
And we're 1992. Oh, so it's 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. And the old building you probably know is the one on Main Street that's now the fancy restaurant.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
Cucina, right?
Yeah.
So we have kind of these deep roots in the community, but we're calling this rooted and reaching. Right? How can we continue to be rooted in Christ and also in our history and where we're located, and then how can we reach out with love and Christ's love, both in our lives as we spiritually move forward and also as we reach out in love with our neighbors, as we've been kind of talking about already. So that's kind of our broad theme this year, rooted and reaching.
And that it's a both and, like we need to be grounded in the things that are important to us, but if they don't show fruit, we have this image of a tree. A tree needs roots, and it has to be reaching out, and both having good branches and having good roots it's cyclical. If either one of those are damaged, it can really affect the health of the tree, and so that's kind of our sort of image moving forward in this new season.
It's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
And specifically, I think we hope that we continue to be a thriving congregation in our town, and that we continue to reach out to our young people and provide them a sense of security and faith in Christ, and that kind of they grow up in the church, and that we continue to reach out to those in need with love.
Yeah, one of our passion areas is younger people. I mean, of course, our children had a great impact of COVID, and particularly we find our high schoolers, their entire high school was sort of atypical, and what a sort of formative time that is. But for all of these age groups, how can we support them in what they need to thrive as people, and provide them the spiritual support for that, but also just community. So much kids need to know that they're important to more than just their parents, that there's greater community that knows who they are, knows their name, is interested in what college they're going to, and what their sports teams are, and that's creates a great sense of belonging and purpose and hope for the future. So we're kind of a community that tries to facilitate that.
And I would add that it applies to retirees and people beyond retirees, shut-ins, that they're also valued and cared for and a part of that community too. So we kind of offer it on both ends and in the middle.
And in the middle, yeah. That's the hope in this season,
And that's a vision. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your stories and your visions. And you certainly have the energy and the purpose and the faith.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And good luck and continued success in your faith journey, because you are obviously influencing so many people. So, to my viewers, check them out. If you're looking for a church or you want to see what the Covenant Congregational Church is all about, 10:30 on Sundays.
We also stream it on YouTube, and our YouTube handle is ECOV Church also.
Yeah.
So
So you can
watch
check us
online.
out online before you come. Even you can
There you go.
can observe it and then come and join us. Yeah.
So wonderful idea. Okay, well, thank you for that, and continued success, as I said, and pleasure to meet you.
Nice
Yeah,
to meet you
nice
too.
to meet you, too.
Yes,
Thank
and
you for
I think
having
you're
us.
going to be around for quite a while.
Yeah,
we
we hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our kids hope so.
I know,
They don't want to move.
Of course they
Amen,
don't.
amen.
Of course they don't.
Great.
And I hope you at home, viewers, enjoyed this program as much as we did presenting it. Until next time, Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, be well.